The wonderful people at Bloomsbury have sent me an advance copy of Thomas McMullan's debut novel, The Last Good Man. But what did I think of it? Let's find out. So, Thomas McMullan is a British writer, critic and journalist whose writing has appeared in loads of different places, including The Guardian, BBC News and also the anthology Best British Short Stories. However, this novel is his debut novel, it's his first novel that he has published. Now, The Last Good Man is published by Bloomsbury and is coming out on November 12, 2020. So if I've remembered to make this video go up at the right time, that should be, from when this video goes live, tomorrow. So, you know, check it out if you think it sounds interesting based on the things that I say in this video. Now, I wouldn't really want to put the novel in any particular genre. I kind of feel like it transcends genre, to be honest. There are certainly elements of it that seem like a rural gothic almost. Certainly there's quite unsettling elements to the narrative, but it's not full of monsters or vampires, werewolves, anything like that. At the same time, I wouldn't really say it's a dystopia. Certainly there's maybe a really vague hint that there's kind of a dystopia somewhere off in the background, in the city, which I'll mention in a moment. But again, it's not really overtly of that genre either. Like I said, I think it kind of transcends genre boundaries, to be honest, and maybe takes elements of various genres, brings them together in a sort of melting pot sort of way, and does some really interesting things with it. And so me saying it doesn't really have a genre, that's not a criticism, in fact. I actually think it's more a compliment, really, because I think it's doing some really interesting stuff, and it's not just going down really easy tropes to fall into, and it's not really being pigeonholed in any particular direction. So the novel focuses, at least initially, on a character called Duncan Peck, who is travelling all on his lonesome, all the way down to Dartmoor to try and find his cousin, which he is successful in doing very quickly. He finds the town in which his cousin lives, and the community there seems to be quite harmonious. Everybody seems to have their place, and certainly things just seem to work. Certainly it seems to be massively different to the city from which Peck has originally come from, which, although we don't see too much of it, is suggested to be rife with crime and fire and chaos. Certainly this town in Dartmoor is a lot better. Now, this town is situated in the shadow of a giant wall, and on this wall citizens of the town tend to write various things. Sometimes they write an advertisement, maybe they're trying to sell a chair that they've got. Sometimes they might leave a notice of an event that's happening soon in the town, trying to, remind people of it, raise some, hype around it, and get more people involved. However, what's most important really to the novel is that this wall is also used for people to put down some, at times, quite extreme accusations about their fellow townspeople. Now, once a piece of writing on the wall accuses someone of something, that is when that person then faces some sort of punishment, rightly or wrongly, whether or not they've actually committed the thing they've been accused of or not. And the novel more or less goes from there. Accusations are made against characters, the outcome of that is dealt with, and it seems like the fibre of the town, the thing that really keeps the town together, seems to be routinely threatened, stretched and challenged pretty much from the moment that Peck enters the town. Won't give you too much more because I don't want to spoil anything, but certainly some very interesting things do happen indeed.
Outside, a pair of bats circle the field. A patch of mushrooms stand patiently on the back of a fallen branch. The eyes of a cow droop into sleep, its jaw settled on a frayed hoof. Beneath the fields, a fox is nestling her young in the dark. A sheep is bleeding out into the black brook. Moths make their way to bedroom lights. There are cries behind walls close to the southern edges of the village. There is paint drying on poster paper. There is movement heard around the western hill.
The first thing I really enjoyed about this novel was its setting, by which I mean both its location but also the concept behind that location as well. Being a Devon lad myself, I really enjoyed seeing Dartmoor being captured in this novel. Certainly the tours and the boundless expanses of nature are things that I'm somewhat familiar with. Seeing the various wildlife being mentioned and the peculiarities of rural town living, they're things that spoke to me personally, and certainly things that I think the author McMullan captured really, really excellently. The concept behind this town as well, the fact that it is in the shadow of this enormous wall, I thought was really brilliant. Of course, maybe there's some sort of comment there on Donald Trump's, build a wall. I'm not entirely sure. But the idea that there is this giant wall, much bigger than the town itself, right, in which people are leaving notices of events or putting adverts to try to sell things, or putting these really extreme accusations against other people. I thought that was really fascinating as well, and I wonder if there's almost a very easy parallel to make there of social media. The idea that on someone's wall on Facebook you could accuse them of something, or how on, I don't know, Instagram you might be alerted that someone's selling something, or how on, I don't know, TikTok you might be told there's an event, I don't know. Certainly I think there's a really interesting parallel going on there, like the idea of a physical wall almost replacing social media, which seems to be totally absent in this world. The second thing that I really enjoyed in this novel was its general atmosphere. Now, this novel's atmosphere is quite eerie and disturbing most of the time. There's that sense of there being so many unanswered questions and things just feeling quite strange and peculiar. Certainly Peck, as an outsider entering this quite different location, there's a sense of paranoia, I think, about him, that maybe people keep on looking at him, or maybe they're always talking about him. And certainly I don't think that's just because he is an outsider. I think the location in which the novel is set is very strange, and it's meant to feel strange. This isn't a normal town. They act and behave and work in a very odd way. And throughout the novel, McMullan captures that perfectly, I think. There are times where the main character Peck is maybe walking through the town, and again he feels that people are watching him, or he catches snippets of conversation but not fully, or he's trying to figure out how things are really working in the town but only ever really gets part of the puzzle completed and never gets all the answers given to him. Certainly that unsettling, disturbing, eerie, not quite certain of things atmosphere is brilliant, and it's something that kept me engaged as a reader, to be honest. It's something that I kept on thinking, okay, where are we going to get this answer? Where are we going to find out more about this? Why is it working in this way? So yeah, I really commend McMullan for creating this atmosphere so consistently, but also so authentically throughout his writing. And speaking of the writing, I really enjoyed the way McMullan wrote this story, which I know sounds like a really naff thing to say, but his writing style was both simplistic yet masterful, I think. I've got a master's in creative writing, and so I hope to sort of know my way around writing a little bit. And certainly I felt like there were times where McMullan's writing style was quite raw and quite pared back, but not because he couldn't write anything better. The simplicity, the devastating simplicity at times, I felt was really apt for the setting in which he was writing, or it was apt to what was happening within the story. It kind of, without embellishments and adornments, the story was presented as it is, and I think that the strangeness and peculiarity of it was maybe made to stand out a bit more. Now there are times where McMullan really does, though, bring those embellishments, those adornments, those decorations into play, and there are times throughout the novel where his writing really sings. And I think that because he does that so infrequently, that's what allows them to seem so beautiful and so amazing. If everything was really high and intense and super flowery and decorative all the time, nothing would seem all that impressive. but because it's quite raw throughout most of the novel, and there are times when these moments of great beauty sort of explode, it makes them all the more impressive. Now, I've captured a few of the moments that I really enjoyed throughout this video. You've already seen one quick excerpt that I just really liked, and hopefully you'll see a few more as the video progresses. Now, something that I didn't like so much about the novel was that although it's very heavily populated, the town has a lot of people living in it, I think, I didn't always really get the sense that there were many people living there. In the sense that I don't feel like I knew much about the people, or that actually there wasn't enough that really kept the characters super distinct. Now, this could have been a totally purposeful choice by McMullan. Certainly, it's quite a strange town, and maybe that sense of disconnect from the community at large was done on purpose to add to the eerie, creepy, uncertain atmosphere throughout the novel. And if so, then in which case this isn't really a negative, I guess it's more a positive, because it's just adding to that atmosphere that I really, really enjoy. But there are times where characters' names are mentioned maybe, and I don't really have much of an idea of who they are. They're quite one-dimensional or barely existent. And I just, there are times when maybe I wanted a bit more, just some slightly more, I guess like finite details, or details that are really cemented and clear and concrete and exact. Just so for me as a reader, I had a better idea of what was going on, exactly who was talking, why they were the way they were. The more I'm talking about this, the more I think that actually it is precisely to make the novel quite unsettling and slightly disturbing. So I don't know, maybe McMullan did it on purpose. I'm not entirely sure. However, something that I am certain of is that I wasn't the biggest fan in the world of the final third of the novel. Now, I must admit I'm generally quite harsh when it comes to endings. I think I often find endings disappointing, or I don't enjoy them as much as maybe the rest of the novel. So, you know, bear that in mind and take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt or two. But I feel like there are things that happen in the final third of the story that I wonder if a more delicate way or a more delicate ending could have been reached. I feel like certain things happened, but I don't know if they had to happen. It's really hard to talk about this without giving spoilers away, but yeah, there are choices that McMullan made, I think, as an author that might have been maybe an easy option to have made, or maybe was a simple option to make, but not necessarily the best option to make. I just wonder if maybe a slightly more nuanced or original or just more interesting ending could have been reached. The concept, as I've said, like the concept of the novel is amazing. I really like the setting. There's so much about it that I like, and then I think I was just kind of a bit let down, just a little bit, by the way it ended. Yeah, to be honest. So, yeah, take it with a pinch of salt though. Bear in mind, as I said, I'm not normally a fan of endings, so maybe that's my problem, not the novel's problem.
Out of the shadows comes a dog, dragging a legless bottom half of its remaining 2 paws. It is the same animal he saw carried the morning of Jeff Sharp's punishment, a Jack Russell Terrier with both back legs gone. It is breathing heavily, and its eyes are bulging, each inch of movement a struggle to force its deformed body a little farther over the cobblestones. Peck watches it move for a few seconds, then coughs. There in the square, Peck and the dog look at each other. A moment passes and, with great effort, the dog turns back the way it came, disappearing from view.
But the final thing that I want to think about before I close this video is, why does this novel matter today? Where is its value today? And I think one of the most interesting things about this novel is the way that it presents the relationship between language and truth and power, and how maybe the written word is taken to be what is totally true, maybe a bit too often. We see at times throughout this novel that people take the written word to be the absolute truth and don't really question it. In fact, there are times where characters will say, well, it was written on the wall, therefore it must be true. Even when Peck, the main character, who is obviously not from this town, he's like, but hang on, I know it's not true because I saw something different. Or hang on, how can you just unquestionably or unquestioningly accept it? So that idea of power and truth and the authority, if you like, of the written word, the truthfulness of the written word, just taking it to be 100% exactly what is correct, is something that I find really fascinating. And certainly in today's era of intensified or heightened post-truth, which I'm sure you've heard bandied about quite a few times before, I think that's a very important consideration for us to have. Do we unquestioningly just accept what has been written? Do we need to instead think a bit more about why it's been written, who's written it, and why it might be a lie, why it might not be true? Certainly, I think the perils of just accepting the written word as it is are exposed in this novel. And I think it's therefore quite essential for us to read in this point of the 21st century. So actually, from that viewpoint, is it relevant? Does it have value today? Yes, like absolutely loads. So overall, I would give The Last Good Man by Thomas McMullan an 8 out of 10. And the reason why is I think conceptually it was absolutely fascinating, and there are lots of things that McMullan pulls off that I think are really, really interesting and really exciting and just really well done. The setting and the atmosphere being two really strong examples of that. I do have some grievances maybe about how the story ends, but I think on the whole there is a really, really, really well crafted piece of writing here, both at the sentence and paragraph level, but also more broadly as well of the general structuring of the piece of work. So there we go, that's what I think about The Last Good Man by Thomas McMullan. But if you've read it, what do you think? Or do you now want to read it because of what I've said in this video? Now, I have put a link in the description to the book. That's not an affiliate link or a paid link whatsoever, and I've not been paid by Bloomsbury to publish this video at all. They were good enough to send me an advanced copy of the novel, so I thought I'd do sort of a return favour and, help them promote it a little bit. I mean, who knows, maybe someone will buy it after I've made this video, who knows. Anyway, if you thought this video was interesting or want to see more book reviews from me in future, please do let me know by dropping a like or a comment to let me know as well. And just once again, a massive thank you to the wonderful people over at Bloomsbury for sending this my way. I had a really great time reading this novel, and certainly I'll be looking for more of McMullan's work in the future, and actually I really enjoyed making this video as well, so thank you to Bloomsbury for that. Anyway, as ever, hope you have an awesome rest of the day. Cheers.